Okay, this is part 2 on my low buck, kind of cheapo, actually really cheap, like it's not costing much at all, to put gauges in my 54 F100. So as I said in part 1, I ended up with a 700 R4 transmission out of a 89 Astro van in this truck. And I really didn't want to go to all the expense of either putting a cable drive on the tail end of that transmission, or to buy the converter to turn the digital vehicle speed sensor signal into a cable drive that would drive the back of my old 54 instrument cluster. So I got to thinking, how about if I just take all that out of the 89 Astro van? It's an old van my boss had with fairly high mileage, and his son rolled it, and then it's been sitting out at his place, and people have been scavenging parts off from it over the last 4 years, and there ain't much left to it. So I went out and got the instrument cluster and the entire wiring harness out of that thing, and brought it here and started to dissect it and figure it all out. So I'm going to show you what I got on the bench here. So again, this is the instrument cluster out of the 89, and one thing I liked about the setup here is the sweep for this speedo is at least similar to the sweep on the 54. I drive a 89 Chevy pickup at work, and the speedo sweep on it is from it's probably from 8 o'clock all the way around to 4 o'clock, and 80 miles an hour is, up in here. So, and I think it goes to 120, and it just seems to be a much longer, wider sweep on that speedo. So this one I thought would work pretty good when basically comparing the two. But first, see if it will even work in the truck. Well, I had to trace all the wiring harness out. Guess I could have bought a wiring diagram. But basically, what I found out is that the vehicle speed sensor and the tail shaft of the 700 R4 drives this box that sits behind the dash. And then this box had a bunch of wires going to the back of the instrument cluster, and they just plugged in two plug-ins here, and then they connect to the back of the speedo. Well, this thing was kind of interesting. It's fairly simple. There's basically two motors. This is a back on there. This motor here drives the speedo, and then this motor here drives the odometer. Now, the odometer also had an extension an extension on the odometer to a tripometer. I'm not going to put in the tripometer. That's just going to get thrown away. Already took it out of there. So I traced a bunch of wires, and basically this thing only has 3 inputs. It's got in the back, all these Chevy trucks and maybe cars too, the pink with either a black or a white stripe is 12 volt hot. And then there's a 12 volt hot that feeds both the box and the speedo. And then there's a negative I've got the wrong one hooked up there. Hard to tell some of these colors. I'm crossed up. There is a negative for the box and the speedo. And then the speedo hooks to the box by this blue with a black wire. So that's just 3 wires there. And then the box here is connected to the VSS by 2 wires. I think these are common colors for all the GMs. This is a purple with a white stripe and a green with a black stripe coming from the transmission, the VSS. So I hooked that all up and took off down the road, and sure enough it ticked over odometer and speedometer. So the next trick is, let me back up. So this DRAC module, I think it's called, it's got all these other wires. This always amazed me. You know, if it's a light bulb, it should need 2 wires, but when you start chasing wiring in your car, you realize there's 4 involved. Well, that's kind of the way this is. Well, on all these, I believe this yellow, or sometimes in trucks it's an orange, drives the cruise control, which gives me an idea. There might be cruise control in the future of my truck here. The purple and green come from the transmission. The pink is 12 volt. The blue with the black goes to the speedometer. That leaves this brown and this white one. And I think this green one. No, the green one goes to the tranny. So the extra wires then here, I know one of them is used for, on the Astro van, it was used for the anti-lock brakes. They didn't have sensors on the wheels. They just had a sensor from this thing that controlled rear wheel anti-lock only. And then also one of them went to the computer, of course, to give it a signal for vehicle speed. And I won't need those at all. Okay, so the next trick is to pull this thing apart. It's actually 2 pieces. It's the speedo motor and the odometer. And I'm going to pull that, I'm going to cut that odometer out of there, separate the plastic, cut this tab off here, right about there, and use this part right down in here to mount here in the odometer window. Okay? And the motor then will kind of stick out. It's barely going to fit in there, I think. The motor is going to want to stick out. I might not be able to put tenths in there. I might have to just put the miles, and the motor will stick out this part. Kind of go into this thing in that fashion right there. And the motor will stick out right about here. Of course, I'll have to fab a adapter plate to be able to mount it in there. Now the big difference is on this one, on this one here, the speedo arm right here mounts under the odometer. And on mine, it's not going to be able to work that way very good, the way this is. So that the speedo motor is going to end up mounting above, up in this position here, and so that's going to be a little tight. I'm not sure how well that will work out, but I think looking at the sweep of the angles, it will actually work out quite a bit better if that thing that thing's mounted high in there, and it ramps up and over like that. Now, it probably won't be spot on at all speeds, but what I'm going to do is when I get it running and in there, I will stick since I got to take the indicator off from there in order to get the motor out, what I'll do is I'll calibrate it by actually driving down the road with my GPS, figure out where like 50, 60, 70 is, and then line it up in my instrument cluster so that 50, 60, 70 line up pretty close to the 50, 60, 70 on this panel right here. So that's the plan. I'm pretty excited so far that I could even figure out how to make this thing work. And I think now that I know how this works, I can fab it up to fit into the back of this. And one other thing I want to make sure it works well is, and that lines up, is I want to make sure I have room left to put my high-low beam right there. Put the high-low beam light bulb in there, because I want my high-low beam to work right there like it did in the stock gauges. So we'll see how that goes, and I'm kind of excited to get it working and see if I can get that to work, and I'll do a part 3, I guess, if I get it working, and show you how it works.